What is going on, you beautiful people? It is Mr. Mediocre, aka Sticky, back at it again. It's been 2 weeks. I kind of wanted to take these 2 weeks to kind of wait to see what the Texans would do in free agency. I mean, they didn't really do much after like the initial moves they made, like the splash they made. What was it, like on the second day or third day of free agency when they got Danielle Hunter and everybody else. So they made a few small moves here and there, but I kind of wanted to see it like all play out, kind of wait for free agency to die down, and I feel like we've kind of reached that point. I mean, any other move that the Texans make from here on out is it's gonna be minor stuff, special teams players. I mean, just today they signed a linebacker, re-signed a linebacker for special teams. So, I mean, little moves like that, they're good, but they're not moving the needle much, if that makes sense. So I feel like at this point the Texans are kind of just getting ready for the draft, and yeah, that's pretty much where we're at in the off season. Um, Now, as far as my thoughts on what transpired during these past 2 weeks that I didn't drop a video, I mean, they apparently were in on Keenan Allen, but the Chargers opted to trade him to the Bears instead, even though the Texans, in my opinion, probably had the better offer. Of course, there was some Stephon Diggs rumors, even though I don't really think those were like ever legitimate. And then we found a little bit more out about the whole Eric Armstead situation. Apparently, they had a trade with the Niners already lined up, but they signed Danielle Hunter, so they opted not to trade for him, and they were never really in on him during free agency. So, yeah, we found some more things out, but as far as their whole free agency goes, or I wouldn't even say free agency because the Joe Mixon trade, that's not really considered free agency. That's considered a trade. But as far as all that goes, I kind of wanted to grade their off season up until this point. I mean, I feel like you got the splash signing Danielle Hunter. I mean, that one's an A plus. Even though I love Jonathan Grenard, Jonathan Grenard did good for us. I think Danielle Hunter is a clear upgrade. Personally, that move right there on its own is like an A plus 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 plus. I just absolutely love that move. And actually, it came out. What was it? Was it today or today when I'm recording this video? Maybe like yesterday that it came out that apparently the Colts have threw a whole bag of money at Danielle Hunter, way bigger offer than Houston did, but Danielle Hunter came to Houston instead. I mean, of course, a lot of that has to do with, no state income tax, him being from the Houston area, but it's funny to make fun of the Colts and call them a poverty franchise. So we're just going to go with the Colts are a poverty franchise. That's why Danielle Hunter didn't want to go there. So we'll just go with that. Then, of course, you got, let's talk about the Joe Mixon trade. I mean, he gave up a 7th round pick for him, so I don't really care about a 7th round pick. Most 7th round picks are typically special teams players, never really see the field, out of the league in 3 to 5 years type of players. So, getting Joe Mixon for a 7th round pick doesn't really bother me. What does bother me, though, is the fact that they extended him, man. Like, that's too much for a running back of Joe Mixon's caliber. I mean, you can go watch the tape, you can go look at the stats, and they both don't lie. He is not this player that Texans fans are really making him out to be. To me, Joe Mixon is just an average Joe. I honestly think Devin Singletary is a better running back than Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has no burst. He has average at best vision. He doesn't see the field all too well if you go watch the Bengals game. And keep in mind, I am a huge fan of Joe Burrow. So I've watched a lot of Bengals game, and Joe Mixon does not move the needle for me. Like he is not no Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones would have been a way better option. He would have been a perfect scheme fit. He has more burst. Oh, but Sticky, the Bengals had a terrible offensive line. I hate that argument because that's the dumbest argument ever. Anyone who makes that argument didn't watch the games last year. It's kind of like comparing Damian Pierce to Devin Singletary. Why was it the moment we put Singletary in, the Texans got some sort of run game? Why? Because Damian Pierce just ran towards the contact. Damian Pierce wasn't a scheme fit. Damian Pierce couldn't see the holes. So it's kind of the same thing with Joe Mixon, man. I mean, the dude is just straight up a C tier running back. Like, probably not even top 16 in the NFL. He's not that impressive. The Texans did need a running back, but I feel like they did downgrade. So this move to me gets a D. Next move, Danico Autry. Great signing. I mean, I got into a Twitter argument with some random guy that thinks he knows what he's talking about. I believe it's like a Rockets reporter. He was saying how Danico Autry was here to play defensive end. I'm like, I highly doubt he's playing defensive end. He's playing on the inside. Well, the Texans re-signed Derek Barnett, so guess where Danico Autry's playing? On the inside. And I think that's perfect. I mean, people think Danico Autry is the size of, Jacob Martin, but the dude's built like a D tackle. Can he play edge rusher? Yes, but he can also rush from the inside. So I give this move an A plus. I think that's a great signing. I mean, having Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Danico Autry all rushing the quarterback at the same time. I think that's going to be crazy good, and it's going to make Trevor Lawrence piss down his pants, even though he already does that on his own. The next move, Azeez Al-Shaair. I think that dude's a straight up upgrade over Blake Cashman. Blake Cashman did some good things for us, but I feel like Al-Shaair is just way better than Blake Cashman. He's better in coverage. He's a better run stopper. When you got a division with Jonathan Taylor, you kind of, especially last game, week 18 when we went to Indy, he was gashing us, and the only reason the Colts were even in that game was because of Jonathan Taylor. So having a run thumper guy that can cover like Al-Shaair, I think that's a great addition. I'll rate this move an A. Everything else though, man. Jeff Okudah, I know they signed C.J. Henderson as well. I do like that they did that. So Jeff Okudah and C.J. Anderson, two former top 10 picks. Okudah being a top 3 pick, the third overall pick back in 2020. These are like high upside guys that didn't really live up to the potential. But I feel like a lot of that has to do with the environment that they were playing in. I mean, C.J. Henderson was in Jacksonville. Come on, man. Like, who can have success in Jacksonville? And then he went to the Panthers after that. The Panthers from last year that won 2 games. And then Okudah, he was with the Lions before the Lions got respectable. And then he was with the Falcons, which were he did pretty decent there in Atlanta. So getting those two, former top 10 picks compete for that second corner spot, I actually love that, man. And, a cornerback too here in Houston, I feel like the scheme, or the way they try to do things, I guess you could say, not really the scheme, the way they try to do things here, a strong defensive line to rush the quarterback, that makes things easier on that corner. So I wouldn't be shocked if one of CJ Henderson or Jeff Okudah ends up being really good for us. I mean, they're both on 1 year contracts, low risk, high reward type deals. So I kind of want to like bunch those two together, and I give that an A plus, man, because I feel like odds are one of them's gonna end up doing good for Houston. Another move I want to talk about is Derek Barnett. I feel like Barnett did really, really, really good for us there at the end of the season whenever we brought him in. Uh, Glad to have him back. He's probably going to be our third pass rusher on that defensive line coming from the edge. So, keeping things fresh. So now you have Barnett. You have Danico Autry. You have Will Anderson. You have Danielle Hunter. So you have four players that can rush the quarterback. I mean, they're not all going to be rushing the quarterback at the same time, but it keeps things fresh, players fresh, especially like late in the fourth quarter. Last year we had a lot of close games, so it's going to keep our defensive line fresh to get after the quarterback late in the games to close them out. So Derek Barnett coming back, man, that's an A++. Another guy we signed as well, Mario Edwards, kind of similar to Danico Autry. He can rush inside, he can rush outside. I feel like they'll have him as an interior pass rusher on certain passing situations. That's a move I like as well. I'll give that one an A. A lot of people complain about bringing in Noah Brown, but I mean, I think the Texans are going to draft a wide receiver in the second round with one of their 2 second-round picks. So Noah Brown's ultimately going to be your wide receiver 4. And who's to say John Mechie or Xavier Hutchinson isn't going to take a step forward how Nico Collins did here last year. So there's a good chance that Noah Brown's going to be like your wide receiver 5. Noah Brown, he had some really good games, especially those 2 comeback games that... What was it, against the Buccaneers? Dude went off. Against the Bengals? Dude went off. Having a guy like that can like come in every now and then and have a performance like that, that's good to have in my opinion. And then of course you have other players that we signed like Tommy Townsend. He's a punter and he was like an all-pro punter, I want to say, back in 2022. So yeah, we lost a good punter, but we also added a punter that's also good. So I feel like that's like a kind of evens out. And then of course you have like the other small moves like the Lonnie Johnson, the Miles Bryant from New England, who is probably going to be a special teamer, but can also be a situational nickel corner in case anything happens to Desmond King. Of course, you got, what's his name? That one defensive tackle that we signed from Jacksonville. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'm going to just call him Fatty because he has fat in his last name. Yeah, like, little moves like that don't really move the needle, but like those are cool moves to have been made because of how good our special teams has been with Frank Ross. And if Frank Ross wants a player, man, let Frank Ross have that player, because Texans special teams has been, before this past year, 2023 with DJ Stroud, 2020, 2021, and 2022, the Texans special teams were like one of the lone bright spots of the team. So whatever Frank Ross wants, Frank Ross gets. So, I mean, those little moves, you're signing special teams players, special teams specialists for minimal amount. So moves like that, those are always going to be an A for me, man, because they're special teamers, and if they're special teams specialists and they're going to help the special teams, why not? So, overall, I feel pretty good going into the draft. I feel like we need a defensive tackle. I feel like we need a third safety. I feel like we need a wide receiver 3. And who's to say, like I was saying, who's to say John Mechie or Xavier Hutchinson doesn't, take that step forward and becomes the wide receiver 3, but you got to give Stroud more weapons. So overall, I mean, I'm ready for the draft. I'm feeling comfortable with the team Nick Caserio has assembled so far, and I know there's still plenty more time to add other players out there. So we might end up having to revisit this in a couple weeks, or in a week, or maybe in a month. Like, who's to say the draft is over and Nick Caserio signs Quandre Diggs if he's still out there. Or shit, what if they sign me? That would improve the grade to like a A plus 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 plus. No, put on the rule though. Overall, I'd give the Texans free agency grade so far a B, and the only reason why it's a B and not like an A or A plus, even though like I gave a bunch of A's throughout like this video, is straight up because of Joe Mixon, man. I don't like that, man. I don't like that we got Joe Mixon. I don't think he's an RB1 in this league at this point. Honestly, I don't think he ever was an RB1. It's like, yeah, you can look at his stats, but look at his yard per carries, man. Like, those aren't numbers of an elite running back. I mean, even if you put on the film, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't like Joe Mixon. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Texans free agency so far. Comment down below your own thoughts on the Texans free agency. And yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you beautiful people later. Peace.